Fantastic. Just press record and the magnet has dropped. Let's go with this. Let's go for the adapt or die methodology. Hope everyone's good. I've just been to Aldi. Nothing to report really. I'm just going to be eating whilst I do this. Got these 10 peri peri chicken skewers. Peri peri seems to have had a recent upsurge in I got these pepperonis. I love how outrageous Aldi are that they just, like, this could literally just be called pepperoni and everyone would just be like, yeah, fair enough. So I wanted to jump on and talk about a few things. First things first, I recently got a little bit obsessed with Irish culture, and I 100% attribute that to Blindboy, because I've listened to a lot of his podcasts in the last couple of weeks. And Sidemen, actually, on YouTube, recently did a Abandoned in Ireland challenge where they had to get to Dublin, and they all were in different parts of Ireland. And I am fascinated with slight nuances in culture, slight different language. The name of things is different, like a jar of beer. And I just love that sort of slightly different but still the sameness. And yeah, so if you want to know what the UK culture is like, what England's culture is like, I can give you a pretty good scenario. Go to a garage and sit in the reception whilst you're waiting for your tyre to get replaced. One of the most awkward experiences I could ever imagine. Yeah, just lots of old boys, lots of older people expecting everyone in the garage to just drop everything. Lots of bullshit as well. Like, I see a lot of TikToks and I see a lot of Instagram reels about, like, when a labourer or a builder comes around your house and you kind of turn into this, like, all right, mate, how's it going? Yeah. Pot noodles and slags and stuff. It's just really funny. It's so strange how we, assimilate our environment and we feel like we have something to prove, you know? God, I love these. I love the hot ones. I don't like the super hot. I think that black, but I think that's more of an actual pepperoni brand thing. Oh, fuck it. Oh, these are so good. So yeah, awkward situations on days off. I'll tell you what though, when you get your tyres done, it feels really weird when you drive a lot. It's like noticeably, haptically different. Like, you feel like, you probably feel like it because you have. You feel like you've got a lot more grip when you're driving around, you know? But yeah. Other than that, I've got a couple of bangers recordings coming up soon. So I'll mention them. Then I'll have a go on these. This isn't a review. This is literally just me hungry because I've been doing stuff. I totally didn't sleep in until 10 a.m. this morning, by the way. But yeah. Do one of them in a minute. So, first things first, or second things second, as I've just talked about two other things. Third things first. Whatever. Anyway, I've had to kind of check myself in the last couple of weeks, because I haven't actually been actively recording on the podcast. Because A, there's backlog, B, there's personal issues with some of my editors. In their lives, they've got personal circumstances that's not really enabled them to edit stuff. And sometimes you just need to take your foot off the brake. Foot off the gas, whatever. You need to take a break. And I encourage people to take breaks if they are content creators or social media people. because otherwise it just feels like this never-ending hamster wheel of chaos. You know, I can jump on here and talk about all sorts of trending topics, like the CEO of Kellogg's telling everyone if they're poor to just eat cornflakes, which is one of the most out-of-touch things I've ever seen in my entire life. Stuff like that's always happening. There was a massive natural disaster recently. It wasn't potentially a natural disaster because it was a bridge. Is it Baltimore Bridge? It's just collapsed. So I feel really like desensitized to stuff like that. And not being at Baltimore Bridge, I've never been there, I've never crossed it. So I feel this sense of like disengagement and disconnect from that natural disaster. And I don't really have anything to say on it other than it's fucking shit, really. So yeah, I don't really know how to segue from that, but I've had to really check myself in the last couple of weeks because I've been very ambitious and very assuming that if I get people on the podcast of a notable sort of stature, that they can get me free entry to the gigs that they're playing, or they can get me merch, or they can do something that benefits me in return. And I just think that's an awful way to live your life. I think the expression is altruistic, where it's sort of you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And I need to snap out of that now, because it's not a good way to live your life. I don't live in LA, I don't live in London, I don't need to live life in the fast lane. But I think it's fundamentally, it's down to this sense of I can't really sit still. And, you know, you need to ask yourself why. I've done this so many times now, but you need to ask yourself why you're doing the podcast in the first place. And if it's for fame or glory or money, then don't do it. Because all of that is absolutely tertiary to the fact that you enjoy the conversations and you enjoy interviewing people. That has to be the main driver for why you do what you do. And I'm not looking at this from a sense of authority, like, oh, you know, when I was on 3 subscribers, I realised that I needed to do this, and now I've got 400. It's not that. Like, 400 subscribers isn't a lot either. You got people like Scott and Wanda, they got 4,500. Scott reviews things, it's now, isn't it? Obviously BVM's got 150,000. Angry Bootneck's got 35,000. But one thing I've noticed with those people in particular that I've just mentioned is they haven't changed. They're still the same person or the same group. Regardless of numbers, regardless of clout, regardless of like brand deal opportunities, they're still the same people. I speak to Dave frequently on WhatsApp, and I think he's a legend. I think he's a really nice, down-to-earth chap, and I know he doesn't like being called a legend. But he's just the same off-screen as he is on-screen, and I think that's really important. So yeah, maybe I just need to sort of sit down and sit with myself and wonder what I'm doing this for, really. Yeah, so that's just me being a bit vulnerable and a bit check yourself before you wreck yourself sort of mentality. But yeah, going back to Blindboy, and then I'll call this a day. I have listened, all bets are off now. I have listened to the best podcast I will ever listen to in my life. So, Blindboy is one of the biggest Irish podcasters in Ireland. He recently did an interview with Devin Townsend, who's one of my favourite singer-songwriters ever. So to have both of them on a podcast was like, oh! And I can't thank Che enough for recommending Blindboy to me. He mentioned in that interview, or that episode, he mentions a episode that I didn't know about on the Blindboy podcast called The Poltergeist of a Builder. And he's using that episode to exemplify how flow state works and how creative flow works, and how when you're in that deep sense of creation, nothing will stop you creating. Like, you'll just like knock stuff off. You'll just brush stuff off. You won't let it like not hit your target, as it were. So in that episode, Poltergeist the Builder, I recommend everyone listens to it. I'll put it in the description. I'll put the Spotify link. Every 15 seconds that Blindboy's recording the podcast, the smoke alarm in his apartment or his flat or his house or whatever he lives in is beeping. And he mentions it quite early doors in the podcast. And he says, I'm not going to let this bother me. I'm not going to let this distract me from doing the podcast, because he's been doing it every single week. I think he's done it every single week for 6 years, which is about 350 episodes, give or take. So fair play to him. He's done really, really well. I'm very, very jealous. He's got a lot of listeners as well. So he gets quite annoyed about 4 or 5 minutes later from this beeping and the smoke alarm. And he tries to sort of push it off and put it off and justify it by saying it's a mechanical bird that he's recently adopted and it lives with him. He then pauses the podcast and he tells everyone that he's recorded, pause the podcast, sorry. He grabs a hockey stick from the side of his bed. It must be an Irish thing. And he smashes the fuck out of this smoke alarm. And it keeps beeping, so the battery's still connected to the circuit in the smoke alarm. And he unpauses the podcast to record again, and he's trying to talk about Greek mythology. I think that's what the podcast was meant to be about. But at this point, he's like sort of full on into this mode of like, and his battery in the smoke alarm explodes, and he replays the sound because he catches it on audio, and he then turns the smoke alarm exploding in the battery exploding into a song, and like the drums are the smoke alarm battery exploding. And it's just like there was nothing on this earth that was going to stop Blindboy from recording that episode. And I can't remember the last time I felt like that. I'm very sort of critical path with getting certain people on certain times, certain, you know, I usually record at 8 PM on Mondays. And then once I've recorded, obviously I want to get the episode out as quickly as possible. But check it out. I was roaring while I was driving on the way home, listening to this. So funny. He's such a strange, enigmatic kind of guy as well, and he's anonymous, so no one knows who he is. But yeah, just absolutely fantastic. A real creative genius, in my opinion. And I know that he doesn't like reviews like that because he's very cautious of good reviews. And recently his book was like a #1 bestseller and all that sort of stuff. I've done a book review, if you want to check that out, called Topographia Hibernica. But yeah, hope everyone's good. And I'm off back to the flat because I bought a load of stuff from Aldi. And yeah, me and my grippy tyres will see you next time. Cheers everyone. Bye.